ABC 10 News at 11 starts now.
After just 9 months, the first group of San Diego Frontline workers have been vaccinated against COVID-19. Good evening. I'm Steve Atkinson. Hospitals across the county are injecting our heroes with the first of 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine. Naval Medical Center San Diego gave a shot in the arm to nurses and doctors, sending a surge of hope through that hospital. Some of those doses were also sent to Camp Pendleton in those extra cold freezers. Rady Children's Hospital also started vaccinating around 100 of its high-risk healthcare workers. And UC San Diego Health just received close to 3,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine, preparing to inject its frontline workers. And this is just the beginning of a long sprint. Our ABC 10 News reporter Anthony Pura shows us doctors say more doses are expected to arrive next week.
It kind of feels like it has this energy of perhaps the beginning of the final chapter of what has felt like a very long year for all of us.
Lieutenant Junior Grade Catherine Senoid is a staff nurse working in the emergency department at Naval Medical Center San Diego. They were the first to vaccinate its frontline healthcare workers with the Pfizer vaccine. Senoid was the first there to roll up her sleeve and get the shot.
Band-Aid on, actually, yeah. But it feels like I have an obligation to do everything I can to ensure that I'm immune so I don't pass on anything to my patients.
At UC San Diego Health, their staff also got their hands on the vaccine. The shipment just under 3,000 doses. Their staff will start getting these doses Wednesday.
I think that this is a day to remember.
The first batch is expected to go to critical healthcare workers, followed by residents and staff in long-term care facilities, though what's available now isn't even expected to be enough for those early phase healthcare workers. Governor Gavin Newsom on Tuesday said California expects to get another 393,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine next week. It's also slated to get 672,000 doses of Moderna's vaccine once it's approved. UC San Diego says it expects to get roughly 5,000 of those Moderna vaccines as early as next week. But they say keep in mind, both vaccines will require the recipient to receive a second dose either 21 or 28 days from the first.
In another week or two, as we figure out how fast the delivery will ramp up from the manufacturers, we'll be in a better position to be able to answer the question of how fast we'll get through our healthcare worker totals. Certainly our objective would be to get within the next month to get beyond just the healthcare workers.
Dr. Christian Ramers is a member of the county's Vaccine Advisory Committee. He says as more vaccines are administered over the next few weeks, prioritizing who gets the next doses still needs to be hashed out.
We're going to sort of flesh this out, and honestly, it's going to get a lot more complicated when we get to the other groups, sort of when we get to essential workers, general population. Then it's going to be a lot more debating and thinking about it. Right now, it's pretty straightforward that somebody working in a COVID ICU is extremely high risk and need to be vaccinated.
Anthony Pura, ABC 10 News.
And here are the latest numbers. A staggering 32 new deaths were reported today. That brings our total to just under 1,200 San Diegans who have now lost their lives to this virus. And more than 1,800 new cases were reported, bringing that total to more than 111,000. A new poll now suggests at least 85% of Americans will get the COVID vaccine when it becomes available to them. But there are still many, primarily people of color, who are skeptical. Now there's an urgent effort to overcome that misinformation and mistrust in the Black and Latino communities. That mistrust stems from past experiences, such as the Tuskegee experiments, in which syphilis was given to Black men and then left untreated. Today, local activist Shane Harris talked about the difficulty in easing the community's concerns.
There's a lot of fears here that have to be addressed. And then one thing about it, like I said, we're going to promote the vaccine. We're going to promote public health. We're going to keep doing that work, but we're also going to equally chime in on government, and we're going to hold people accountable. There's got to be more done. And it's a collaborative approach, like I said.
And as part of the effort to persuade skeptics, the first 2 Americans to get the vaccine, they were Black healthcare workers. The battle continues tonight between parents and school officials for what is best when it comes to returning to campus. Some districts are already revealing their plans after the winter break. Tonight, the San Diego Union High School District is deciding whether to return for in-person learning at least 1 day a week. Our ABC 10 News reporter Laura Acevedo shows us how families and teachers are torn about reopening plans.
After winter break, the San Dieguito Union High School District plans on returning to campus with the option for students to continue online. Some parents wanting to go back 5 days a week. The district's plan is only 1 day a week for now.
I think that you're just unable to really have the best frame of mind when you are at home for hours on end and you are essentially isolated.
During the meeting, the district consulted with 4 doctors who all said they felt the plan was safe, but not everyone agrees. Some students and teachers asked the district to stay virtual until the state's cases improve. The California Teachers Association sent the district a cease and desist letter saying the plan does not protect teachers.
We have 2 weeks of winter break where we know families will be traveling extensively, and it just doesn't make sense to come back immediately after those holidays.
Poway Unified announcing they'll do the opposite, starting the first 2 weeks of winter break online, saying they are experiencing, quote, severe staffing shortages at many of their school sites after Thanksgiving break due to more staff having to quarantine upon positive test results or close contact, adding there is no evidence of any outbreaks on any school campus. The Poway School Board still has to vote on the decision during Thursday's meeting. Laura Acevedo, ABC 10 News.
Also tonight, a growing number of young San Diegans are still having symptoms several weeks or even months after getting COVID-19. Now, UC San Diego is starting to track these so-called long haulers. A local mother told our ABC 10 News reporter Jennifer Kastner that she still struggles today after testing positive last March.
Some health experts are now saying that the long-haul patient population may become a public health crisis of its own. When Jenica Harris in San Marcos got the coronavirus in March, she expected to bounce right back, but weeks turned into months.
And I'm 33, healthy, young, worked out while I was pregnant, lifted weights, high-intensity workouts. And here I am, and I have this, slew of doctors that I have to go see, and trying to figure out why my heart is so high, my heart rate is so high, and I can't move from the couch and I can't breathe 2 months after, 3 months after, 4 months after.
9 months later, this mother still battles severe shortness of breath. She's considered a long hauler, one of the growing number of post-COVID patients who suffer long after testing positive.
I was so angry for so long. Because I would see people outside partying when I could barely walk 2 feet to my window.
We already have several dozen patients, and we're starting to get in outside referrals.
Dr. Lucy Horton is working with a team of specialists at UC San Diego to treat local long haulers. Many are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s with no underlying conditions. They, like Harris, were never sick enough to be hospitalized when they first got the virus. Dr. Horton tells ABC 10 News the cause of ongoing symptoms remains unclear. It could be an autoimmune or overactive inflammatory response, and there's no one treatment. She says many of her patients have been ill for months.
What's really challenging as a physician in this situation is that we honestly don't know. And so when patients ask me, am I going to be sick for the rest of my life? I don't know if they're going to be sick for the rest of their life.
She, like Harris, encouraged young people to continue taking virus safety measures seriously.
The decisions that you make sure that you can live with those decisions.
According to a British study, researchers now estimate that about 10% of COVID-19 patients develop prolonged symptoms. Jennifer Kastner, ABC 10 News.
Police in Kansas City are looking for a person who shot an officer. This was the scene this evening as investigators look for clues. They say the officer pulled over a driver suspected in multiple hit and runs. Now, at some point, the driver shot the officer in the arm and then just took off. Well, the car was later found abandoned. The officer's injuries are not considered life-threatening. Now that his election is official, President-elect Joe Biden is trying to unite the country. Biden spoke on that theme while campaigning today for the last 2 Senate races in Georgia. This comes as the Republican majority leader in the state's Senate, finally acknowledged Biden's victory.
So today I want to congratulate President-elect Joe Biden. I also want to congratulate the Vice President-elect, our colleague from California, Senator Harris, Beyond our differences, all Americans can take pride that our nation has a female vice president-elect for the very first time.
Biden later revealed he and McConnell spoke for the first time since the election. And a local college professor has returned to San Diego after serving as one of the state's electors in Sacramento yesterday. ABC 10 News spoke with Southwestern College's Peter Boland just after the election day in November about his role. California's 55 electors were the ones to officially cement President-elect Joe Biden's win in the Electoral College. Well, today, Boland said that honor led to an eruption in the state capitol.
Then my phone started blowing up. People were texting me, I just saw you on this network, on that network. I guess a lot of folks were carrying it live on television or damn near live because our 55 votes put Biden-Harris over the top, over 270, and kind of locked it in. So that's where the drama came from. And then when Kamala Harris's name was read a couple minutes later, it was even louder and it was even bigger, and it was surprisingly moving, and I'll never forget it.
An historic moment for sure. Professor Boland said that from beginning to end, submitting his vote as an elector took about 90 minutes. He's now quarantining after the trip and awaiting a COVID test.